Everybody, welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. Man, it's been a couple weeks. I've got a lot to catch you up on. I've got a little bit of recorded stuff from those 2 weeks since I picked the camera up, but there's a lot of catching up to do. You can see I've got some things moved around here in the workshop. And well, let's just get to it. I got to get you guys caught up. I guess for starters, I'll pick up where I left off last. The ass blazer needs a starter. Starter went out on me on the way home from Truck Nationals on the last day. It's sitting here, but I had to get the transmission out of this truck. A previous customer of mine that has bought parts from me needed a transmission. I have it. I'm not going to use it, so I had to get that pulled out. He's coming to pick that up tomorrow. That brings us to this truck, the silver single cab. You can see it's facing the other direction. I actually just got back from the maiden voyage in this truck. And the last couple weeks, to be honest with you, I just haven't really felt like picking up the camera. I just wanted to come down here and work on the thing and get stuff done. But on top of that, the stuff I was doing was not super duper exciting, to be honest with you. I was fixing all the little knick-knack odds and ends that pop up when you do a job like this, and getting all those things sorted out, taken care of, and fixed, because I have a dyno appointment for this thing next Friday. Today is Friday the 16th. Next Friday the 23rd. This thing is going on the dyno to get tuned. But let's get you caught up. I'll put in, here's some of the stuff that I did over the last 2 weeks, and then I'll show you and I'll tell you the other stuff that I had to sort out and figure out and get taken care of as well. Bam. Well, there you can see, everybody. The front end of it is together. It looks like a truck again. For the time being, I just want to get it together and get to driving it. I think I have a better set of headlights and marker lights around here somewhere that I'll get swapped in, but these were right here. Easy to put it back together, and I wanted to get it all together. So I've pretty much got the entire front end on this truck back on now. I've got my electrical all connected except for the stuff under the truck. I've got my intake plumbing done. This is just, guys, this is nothing special. This is just an eBay, Amazon cold air intake kit. Nothing fancy there. I really only got it. I don't care, like I'm not looking for a performance increase, but I needed the compact routing. That made it easier for me to fit it, clear the engine cover, and clear everything else I have going on in here. Obviously, grill, headlights, that's all on, that's all wired up. That stuff is ready to go. I got all of my wiring under the fuse panel done. Nothing really complicated in here. I had to cut and splice wires from that one connector that I had mentioned before. Those were for the impact sensors in the front. Again, very simple. Match the colors, splice them together. If you're not 100,000% sure that you have it all matched up, you can do a resistance test on your old harness to verify where your wires go, and then just match up into your splices here. And I do still have some terminals left in that connector, so if I want to add some functions later on, I can. Otherwise, it's all back together, covered up. Looks like factory. Primarily because it is pretty much all factory. I've got my spark plug wires in. I got my PCM in. I am not using the PCM from this truck. It did not have an operating system compatible with a V8 program. I did, however, have a PCM here from a previous truck that I parted out. It was from a 2003 Yukon Denali. So it already had 6-liter programming and 4L60 programming in it. All I had to do was go in and disable VATs, That PCM does not match this truck, so it would have been VATS. It would have VATS shut down if I hadn't disabled VATS. And then I disabled the things that I am not using. I disabled all of the evap codes, trouble codes. I'm not doing any evap. I disabled all of the downstream oxygen sensor codes. We're not using those. And I deleted all of the catalyst efficiency, the catalytic converter codes, because again, we're not using that stuff. Pretty much everything else I left alone. I want to just see if it'll start on what's in there. Between the cam, the injectors, it may cold start. I don't think it will run and idle though. And programming, tuning will probably be an entirely separate video when I reach that point. I'm not starting it in this video. There's still a lot to do. So at this point, I'm pretty confident I'm ready to roll this thing forward and get it up in the air so I can finish everything I need to do underneath. I'm pretty confident I'm gonna have to take the front wheels off to put the inner fender liners back in. I gotta get the shifter hooked up on the transmission. I gotta get my oxygen sensors installed. Remember, I still had one more oxygen sensor to put in, as well as the wideband oxygen sensor that I'm going to need to be able to tune it. I need to tighten up all the clamps and everything on the exhaust now that I have all the body and everything on the truck, and probably some other odds and ends. So I'm gonna get it up in the air. I'll show you what I'm working on underneath. Well, everybody, it's about 11 o'clock and I gotta wrap it up for the night, but I figured I'd show you what I got done under here. Not everything I wanted to, but a lot. So I've got the exhaust fully tightened, everything in place, routed where I'm happy with it. I got the exhaust tip where I'm happy with it. So all of that taken care of. I also got both of my oxygen sensors put in place, wires routed, taken care of, the shifter cable hooked up, my wideband oxygen sensor in place with wire routed away from heat, away from moving things, up to the engine bay. I'm actually pretty happy with how that came out. I think it looks clean. And where the hole through the firewall was that I'm using, it worked out so nicely. So I'm really excited that I noticed that and was able to run it that way. Oh, what else did I do under here? Actually, I think that's about it, guys. Like, this stuff takes time. This is kind of like finish work. So getting everything tweaked just how I want it and just so, it just takes time. It also reminded me, I got to get my parking brake cables. I don't yet have my rear cables for my parking brake, so I got to get those here. Get my parking brake all hooked up. And I didn't get to the front inner fenders. I got to get those put up where they belong and taken care of also. So still a lot to do before we're getting close to a first start. I also got to look through my stash around here, see if I have a lower valence that is already cut out for the fog lights. I'd much rather use one that's cut out from the factory, but if I don't have one, I may just cut out these ones. We'll see. Like I said, it's late. It's a little after 11 o'clock. I gotta go in, get a shower, and get to bed. Hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow. Whew, well, everybody, it's Friday night. It's almost midnight. It's about 11:45. I've been down here for a few hours. I've been plinking away on the little stuff, the checklist, the try to get it running list, all the little odds and ends. So I figured I'd give you an update. None of it is super exciting. None of it is stuff that you need me to show you how to do it. But I figure I want to document all of this, and you guys can contribute your opinions, your input down below. So what do? I got the front fender liners put back in, and then I set it down on its weight and turn the wheels, and it looks like those wheels and tires are gonna clear. They get close, but from what I can tell, they're gonna clear. They clear all the way when I turn in the front and the back of the tire on both sides. Given the suspension is gonna settle a little bit, but I don't think that's gonna close up our clearance. I think we're gonna be fine. So that's a win. I'm excited about that. I went through and started filling fluids. I got the power steering fluid filled up. I've got antifreeze coolant in it. And right now I'm holding a vacuum on the AC system. I want this thing to have nice cold AC because I like to be comfortable. So I've got it drawn down to minus 30 inches of mercury. I'm going to leave it sitting overnight. If it's still holding at minus 30 in the morning, that's good enough for me to say the AC system is sealed up tight, and I'll go ahead and charge it. I somehow have let myself run out of engine oil, so that won't be here until day after tomorrow. I did fill the transmission up with ATF. I did bleed the brakes. I vacuum bled them. That's really all I can do by myself down here is vacuum bleed. And we should have some company tomorrow, so if I can sneak away for a few minutes tomorrow and get someone to come help me, I might pressure bleed just to make sure I've gotten all the air out of the brake system. I also got going on the parking brakes. Now, if you remember, and if you're not familiar with these trucks, this was originally a drum brake rear. I converted it to a disc brake rear, which means I need the disc brake parking brake cables. The passenger side cable, got it routed, hooked up, done. Like, it's in there exactly where it's supposed to be. The driver's side cable, I looked up, I don't know what I ordered a driver's side parking brake cable for, but it's not for this truck. It's too long. So I had to go through and look up the correct part number, get the right parking brake cable ordered. It should be here in a day or two. In fact, it's Friday night. My parking brake cable, my engine oil. I should have everything I need here on Sunday to finish these little odds and ends checklists that I'm working on. I think, guys, once that stuff gets here and I can get it in the truck, next step is going to be get it sitting on its own weight, get all of the suspension tightened up, and then it might be time to give this thing a test fire. I was thinking about waiting until my next video on this project, but I'm excited, and I gotta give you something exciting, some reason to watch this video other than just hearing me tell you about all the boring stuff I've done. So if everything gets here by Sunday and things go to plan, I think we're gonna try to get this thing started up. So that's it for tonight. I gotta go in and get some rest. Hopefully, cross your fingers for me that it holds vacuum overnight and I can get the AC charged up in the morning. And we'll continue along on this thing. See you guys tomorrow. Hey everybody. So I'm picking up, it's actually Sunday now. Yesterday we had the first birthday celebration for my youngest son. Had an awesome day, spent time with family, friends. Great time celebrating him. And I was doing that. I didn't want to come down to the workshop. So today, normal Sunday, back down to it. And first thing I'm going to do here, check my my vacuum on my air conditioning system. And if you can see that there, the low pressure gauge is still reading negative 30 inches of mercury. So that's excellent. That means we held a strong vacuum for 48 hours now. It doesn't look like it leaked at all. So that's good. Shouldn't have any moisture evaporated out of the system. And I know I don't have any leaks. So I'm gonna leave that sit for now. And I'm kind of at a sticking point here. I'm waiting for a few parts. I need a parking brake cable to get here. And I can't even believe I let myself run out. I need a little bit more brake fluid, and I need engine oil. I'm completely out of engine oil. So I'm waiting for the oil to get here, the parking brake cable to get here, and then I think I'll be ready to do a test fire on this thing. I wasn't planning on trying to start it up in this video, but that's the point that we've reached. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so you can see the whole truck is put back together. Obviously, I took it for a test drive, right? But you can see I've got everything under the engine compartment here hooked up. Guys, 95% of this, it's like putting it, I mean, it really is, it's putting a factory truck back together. The exhaust obviously is not factory stuff, that's aftermarket. But everything else under here, the cooling hoses, the air conditioning stuff, it's all factory parts. Nothing special. If you take your donor truck apart, you can put it back together with those parts. So I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail on that. I did get a cold air intake kit for it. The main reason I wanted this was to be able to get my throttle body with the adapter and everything. A factory intake tube would not work. It wouldn't clear, it wouldn't fit the way I needed it to. But this is like a $65 Amazon special cold air intake, and took a little bit of modification, and I'm happy with how it fits and how it looks in here. And it'd be more than sufficient. The biggest restriction in this intake system right now is the factory throttle body. But for sake of not screwing around with an X-Link or aftermarket throttle bodies, which, by the way, an aftermarket 4-bolt throttle body that uses the 8-pin plug, those things are crazy expensive. So we're just running the factory throttle body with an adapter plate right now on our Gen 4 intake. But everything under here I'm really happy with. It's clean, it's tidy. I mean, it looks like it came from the factory that way, and that's what I wanted. So let's talk about some of the things I've added, some of the hiccups I ran across, stuff like that. For starters, I added fog lights to this truck as well. And I've done a video on that before. I'll try to put a link up here for you. So if you want to add fog lights to your GMT 800, guys, it's super easy. All you really need is the harness with the fog light wires on it and the switch that goes in the dash. It's super easy to do. That was straightforward. Now let's talk about some of the issues I had. And I'll show you here. I've got this thing now. Uh-oh. Weird. I've got this thing now that there are no warning lights, no problem lights, nothing like that. I've got my my wideband oxygen sensor all hooked up and installed over here, which I really like. Air conditioning is working. The radio is working. But it did not, that's not how it was when I first put everything together. So when I first got it put together, I had airbag light, which I had to get sorted out. I had check engine light, which I was expecting the check engine light. And I had the climate controls. I could not get any air conditioning out of this thing. And the fuel gauge, it was reading opposite. When the tank was empty, the gauge was full, was saying full. When the tank was full, the gauge was reading empty. And what else did I have to correct? The tach wasn't reading correctly. I had to adjust for the wheel and rear axle differential change. But I'll try to run you through how I fixed some of these things. So let's start with some of the easy ones, right? The fuel gauge reading opposite. And this was a learning experience for me. I did not know all of this information. So the GMT 800 platform from 99 to 2002 the sending unit in the tank, I'm probably going to say this backwards, but when the tank was empty, it had 40 ohms of resistance. When it was full, it had around 190 ohms of resistance. That data went to the PCM. The PCM sends that to the cluster to show the amount of fuel. From 2003 to 2007 Classic, they switched it. So 190 ohms was empty and 40 ohms was full. I knew about that. Now what I didn't know was that the fancy 2003s that had like the higher options that they could give you, estimated fuel economy, all of that sort of stuff, like the Denali's, the Escalades, things like that, those still used the 99 to 2002 range, the 40 ohms empty, 190 full range. And the problem I had was I'm using a 2003 Denali PCM. So it thought, based on the resistance it was getting from the sending unit, that it was actually, 40 ohms was empty. The reality of it was, because I'm using a 2005 sending unit, 40 ohms was full. So all I had to do was go in the computer, copy and paste that data from the original PCM into the PCM that I'm using. That was relatively easy once I figured out why it was doing it. My airbag light was on because my clock spring was bad, and because my impact sensors in the front were bad. Now this truck had the airbag light on when I picked it up, when I bought it, and the girl told me that it was because of the bad impact sensor, a bad sensor in the front. I foolishly did not correct that before I started taking this thing apart, and then lost track of which sensor was the bad sensor, and then went around on some other trucks I had around here and pulled same part number sensors off of those. And guys, it turns out I just have a pile of bad impact sensors laying around here. I managed to find some good ones on eBay. I ordered those, hooked those in. Those took care of the impact sensor codes. And then the clock spring, I managed to find a good clock spring in one of the other parts trucks I have. That took care of my airbags. Relatively simple problems, but it took me a while to chase them down and figure it out, especially all my screwing around with impact sensors. I can't believe that out of the 6 impact sensors I had here with the right part number, all 6 of them were bad. It just blows my mind. But they were. The ones I ordered from eBay, hooked them up, took care of it right away. Oh man, check engine. So the computer is obviously quite grumpy because the airflows are totally different from what it's expecting to see. I was able to make some changes to the desired idle. I basically just turned the idle up enough that the computer got over it, and she's running good enough that I can get it onto the trailer and to the tuner. It goes lean almost immediately when you get into the throttle, but it idles right around stoichiometric, and I can roll it around, move it around here at the house at basically idle. So that'll be fine until I get it to the tuner. What else did I have to figure out on this thing? I had a brake squeak in the rear end. Both sides were just shrieking. I don't know what it was. It kind of panicked me. So I pulled the wheels off, and it turned out my backing plates just had a little metal tab that was sticking out and dragging on the inside of the rotor. So I was able to get that fixed and quiet the brakes down. It took me a couple nights to get the brakes bled. And I still need to get somebody down here. I'll probably see if Meg can't help me tomorrow pressure bleed the brakes, really to get the rest of the air out of them. But I've gotten most of it out now, I think. Obviously, I've got the bumpers on the truck. I had to pull those off of other parts trucks that I have here. I've got all the lights on the truck, and you'll actually see in another video soon, I actually have some sponsored parts on this truck, which has not happened for me before. I'm pretty pumped about it. but that's going to be a different video. I got the exhaust all buttoned up, got the weight on the suspension, and got all the suspension bolts tightened down to where they should be. We did a bunch of interior work in this truck. So obviously you can see the interior is all back together. I converted it to a full center console. I've got, these are actually the cloth seats that I had in my blue single cab before I put the powered captain seats into it. Got that sorted out. They had crazy wiring on the radio. And it's not a fancy radio. It's a very basic aftermarket radio, but I don't know who did the wiring on that. Had to get that all sorted out. I already showed you that we got the wideband O2 sensor hooked up, as well as the air fuel ratio gauge right here. I really like this little vent mount, especially because it's not permanent. So once it's tuned, if I decide I don't want that there anymore, I can just take it out, put a vent back in it, and no harm, no foul. I've got the carpet that was in the blue single cab, my blue single cab. I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I got a good factory carpet that I put into that truck. So this aftermarket carpet I put into this one. The climate controls. So this is the first time I've come across this. It said it was not getting, it had a code for, I can't remember what it was, but it basically wasn't communicating with the mode door motor. And I tried switching it out with another one that I had from another truck. That didn't fix it. And then I did some reading online and found somebody say that sometimes you just have to do a reset. The only way to do that reset is with a Tech 2 scan tool. And fortunately, I have a Tech 2 scan tool. And believe it or not, I hooked it up and did this reset procedure that I had read about online, and that took care of it. And now the AC is ice cold in this thing. It's wonderful. I love it. Too old to not have air conditioning. I've got, the headliner was all droopy and saggy in it. I fixed the headliner and got it all glued back together. Converted it from a work truck steering wheel to a, a leather wrapped nicer truck steering wheel. I think I'm gonna keep the crank doors in this thing. I was thinking about considering changing them to power windows, but I just like the manual. I like it how it is. I don't know why, but I like it how it is. So I'm probably going to leave those alone. I did have to swap out the key, the steering column that I was using. That key did not match the locks in the door, obviously, and that was just a matter of time until I locked myself out or something. So I had another parts truck here with a nice factory key, so I stole the ignition cylinder and the driver's door handle out of that. So now my key works the door as well as the ignition. And I just put a non-lock handle on the passenger side, because realistically, when am I ever going to open this truck from the passenger side? If I'm getting into the truck, I'm getting in on the driver's side. So took care of that. Filled all the fluids, gave everything another once over, and picked out all the best sets of lights that I had, which I think I'm gonna have to order some new headlights and lower lights, because these are just, they'll get through inspection, but the amount of work on this truck, it's gotta have nicer lights. It needs a new emblem in the front. But again, my focus has been on getting this thing ready to go to the tuner. And I think we're about there. get on the throttle yet because it needs to be tuned, but at idle and just above idle, it sounds good. I did also add, you may have already noticed, an HD cluster in this thing. So we've got transmission temp over here on the side as well. And corrected it to the mileage of the truck based off of the old odometer. I have that little tool to just basically copy and paste the mileage. And this thing, there's really, I don't think there's anything else that I need to do to it before it goes to the tuner, which is good because I have other stuff I need to get started working on. And I think once we get it tuned, I'm going to get it on the road. I want to enjoy this thing a little bit this year. And to do that, I got to get it on the road. Get insurance on it. Well, I have insurance on it. But get it tagged and all that stuff. And enjoy it a little bit before the end of nice vehicle season. This thing will not be driven in the fall and winter. It will only be a summertime cruiser. Then the other little knick-knack stuff. I had to replace the hoses to the windshield wipers, and that's not necessary for the dyno, but it's going to be necessary for inspection. So I got those fixed up. Everything else up here, I can't tell you how many times I've checked the fluids. Everything looks good. And I think all it needs before Friday is a bath, because it is filthy. A bath, and then Friday we'll take it to the tuner. There's a place right down the street. It's not far. I think it's only going to take me like 7, maybe 10 minutes to get there. And he's got a really good reputation. And in case you're thinking like, man, Jason, you did your own tuning on the CUCV and some of your other stuff. You're right, I have. But you know what I've learned from doing those? To tune this thing, I really think it's going to take me 10 to 12 hours to tune it. And considering the fact that I only get like 1, 2, maybe 3 hours in the evenings, not every day, to come down here and work on this stuff, I value my time at too high a premium to spend 10 or 12 hours of it tuning this truck. Their tuning it's a flat rate of $500, I think it's like $540 for a dyno tune on a naturally aspirated application. So there's no chance for me to tune it, I think it would cost me about $1,000 worth of time. So it just makes sense to pay them to do the tuning. Plus then I can get some video and show you guys, and that's honestly probably going to be the next video you see on this thing. I want to get this one up on Monday because it's been a while, and I'm sure some of you are anxious to know what's going on and where I'm at on this thing. And now you do. So I think that's it on this one. I appreciate all of you watching, and I'm happy. I'm pumped about how this thing is going. I'm excited to get it on the dyno this week and share that with you guys, and then after that, get it on the road and have some fun with it. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.